Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special
Option
IMAA.
2 is total channel management.
Just turn microphones off, please. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to an IMAA leadership session today with the amazing Virginia Scully, who's going to walk us through an employer's guide to navigating psychosafety in the workplace. Virg is a friend of the sector. She's from us. She's one of us. And now she has her own consultancy business, and she works with us and guiding us through all HR issues. Virg, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone, for joining me this morning. I think as industry leaders, you'll be well aware of the complexities and challenges that come with leading and managing people. And today, what we've created is a guide, a practical guide to workplace safety, incorporating the key components of psychosocial legislation. We're going to have a review of some data from the recently launched Mentally Healthy Survey for 2024. And I'm hopefully going to provide a dash of optimism and reassurance around this topic, that as a leader, if your heart's in the right place, the benefits of psychosocial safety are significant and the risks are actually manageable. So today is designed to provide you with a practical guide to protect your business and your employees from work-related health risks. We'll include a load of real-life examples to provide you some context, and also a framework for proactively assessing your workplace. So at the end of today's session, you'll be sent out some information, including a lot more detail around the ins and outs of the legislation, as well as an assessment framework. And I am obviously available to support any questions that you may have through the process. Firstly, Humankind Collective acknowledges the traditional owners of the unceded land on which we work, on which I work, learn and live, which is the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And secondly, it's highly likely, based on the numbers in attendance today, that there's some lived experience in our virtual meeting room. So whether that be personal, professional, or closely related to us, I wanted to recognise you and encourage you to use your experience for good. This content typically attracts a female audience, but I also want to call out the men we have in attendance this morning. And anecdotally, I believe we have more men than women leaders and business owners on this call, and I really want to celebrate that. And finally, if any of the content we cover in the presentation today is distressing, feel free to leave the call and I'll be available afterwards to check in. And finally, if there are any other working parents wrangling work and children at home, I'm sending you personally energy, strength, and make sure you do some self-care. So at this point, let's do some self-reflection. Can you have a look at these two questions and assess which camp feels most true to you as a leader? So if the fear of misunderstanding psychosocial safety and getting it wrong is your driving force, which is fair and reasonable, that's what's most likely to propel you into action, let's call you Frank and we'll revisit you later this morning. If your main driver for championing mental health in the workplace is because it's the right thing to do, and psychological safety is a fundamental human right, let's call you Vanessa. And same thing, we'll review some stories along the way that might help you relate. So what do I know? I am the founder of Humankind Collective, a people and culture consultancy, as Sam has alluded to. I love working with smaller agencies with large hearts. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, but when it comes to mental health, and as we discuss the importance of psychosocial safety in our workplace today, I want to share a personal story that highlights the profound impact of mental health beyond the legislation. When I was 17, my mum, Rosemary, was diagnosed with and survived breast cancer after enduring long-term chemo and a double mastectomy. Not long after, my eldest sister, Gabrielle, was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was a young mum of 4. Somehow she attended my 21st birthday so unwell she couldn't walk. We lost her soon after. I witnessed my parents lose their beloved firstborn, Her young children lose their mum. My siblings lose their sister, and her best friends lose her. And at that time, I thought that was the worst thing imaginable. In my early 30s, my eldest brother called late one night to inform me that my nephew, Gabriel's son, had died by suicide. He had tried to get help, but the regional hospital triage system failed him and was left waiting until it was too much to bear, and he left. We didn't know he was unwell. He had hidden his truth. He was 22 and had his whole life ahead of him. It haunted me that we, his family, his friends, and even his workplace hadn't seen the signs of his struggle. These experiences have driven me to reinterpret my trauma in a meaningful way. I'm committed to improving mental health awareness and support, not just for individuals, but for the communities, the entire communities that surround them. If just one of those support systems had raised a serious flag, my nephew might not have died. As leaders, we have a critical role in fostering environments where people feel safe at work, to share their struggles and seek help. And hopefully, as a community, that's what we're all here to deliver upon today. So the Mentally Healthy Survey was brought together by a group of industry leaders who joined forces to create the Mentally Health Change Group in 2018, and I was one of those. One of the initiatives that we came up with was a robust industry survey, which is conducted every 2 years, undertaken in partnership with the University of Sydney. Here are some of the headlines from this year's survey. Every survey since its inception has seen a decline in our industry's mental health, with increases in depression and anxiety. Over 50% of our industry have claimed to suffer from anxiety, depression, or both. 70% have experienced burnout in the last 12 months. 9.5 days is the average number of days reported to have worked while physically or mentally ill. And 38% of our industry have been diagnosed with a mental illness, and the real number is potentially much higher. On average, at last count, the Australian average is 20%. So we've got some significant challenges. Awareness of neurodivergence and the increase in the diagnosis of neurodivergence has seen some significant increases in discrimination and restrictions at work for our neurodivergent community. As leaders, we need to keep an open mind and implement tools to help the brilliance of neurodivergence emerge, to avoid judgment and ridicule. There are lots of training, education, and simple tools like a My Work Style Guide, which outlines communication preferences, preferred work environments, learning styles, and other amazing quirks that can be used to personalise individual experience and share the information with the team to understand and celebrate. On average, we're also as likely to seek help from a boss or a colleague as we are a GP. No pressure, right? So yes, this comes with a level of responsibility to be trained and educated, but it also means more opportunities to save lives and that our industry are trusting us. So how do you prioritise people in a high demand business environment? We're all juggling competing priorities, adapting to external economic pressures, trying to stay competitive, deliver higher service, maintain client relationships, all while feeling trapped on the relentless and disrespectful industry pitch hamster wheel. And then there's the people, retaining and attracting best talent, managing different client cultures and behaviours and demands, cultural sensitivities and navigating differences and ensuring respect for diverse backgrounds, providing opportunities for learning and growth while managing limited resources is really tough for the independent sector. Always on communication and balancing that with the right to disconnect, helping employees adapt to AI, organisational changes and relentlessly ongoing new technologies, implementing feedback and recognition, giving constructive feedback, and the constant legislation changes. It's such an overwhelming pool of demands, but there is actually a simpler way to look at it. So psychological safety is law. All of us, leaders and agency owners, have legal obligations related to workplace health and safety, which includes psychological health. Last year on April 1, work health and safety regulations for managing psychosocial hazards came into effect, aimed at ensuring psychological and social well-being in the workplace. They also implemented a lot more information around psychosocial hazards in the workplace and regulations around how workplaces should manage these. So what are psychosocial hazards? By definition, a psychosocial hazard is a hazard that arises from or relates to one of these areas and may cause psychological harm. So it may be a design or a management, a way work is managed. It may be a particular work environment, and it may be workplace relationships, interactions, or behaviours. A psychosocial risk is a risk to the health and safety of an employee arising from one of these. So what are some examples of psychosocial hazards? Some of the more obvious and often considered more severe are things like bullying, when an employee feels singled out by another employee and may be made to feel judged or insecure. Discrimination, when a pregnant employee is not given a promotion around the time she announced her pregnancy. Sexual harassment, inappropriate messaging, even though the recipient has expressed that particular messaging doesn't make them feel comfortable, and perhaps the more obvious physical aggression and violence. But the list actually goes on, and some of these are less obvious, but they're increasingly prevalent. So high workload and demands, perhaps after winning 2 extra clients, some of our existing employees need to work overtime for an extended period to deliver on existing client work as well as new biz. We're trying to hire, but there's a lag in support. A lack of role clarity, perhaps a media account manager in a smaller, less structured team feels like it's their job to do absolutely everything because they never had a clear set of responsibilities agreed upon with a new position description when they were promoted from exec to manager. Poor workplace relationships. Team members can't agree on how something should be done, so they move between silent treatment or talking behind each other's backs. Poor support. A junior, a co-ord, works from home 2 days a week and their manager is extremely stretched. So they're struggling to work out how to do certain tasks on their own, but not sure they should bother in their busy team. And job insecurity. We know there's a lot of layoffs and things happening at the moment that can lead to a lot of stress, as well as work organisation. Having excessive bureaucratic processes means that your employee, as an employee, don't feel like I've got the autonomy to make decisions and feel safe to make the right decisions. So all of these challenges can be supported with more effective communication systems, case-by-case review and action. I'm sure they sound familiar. But what does this actually mean? So the bottom line is leaders and employees have a legal responsibility to protect their employees from psychosocial hazards in the same way they are responsible for physical hazards, which is fantastic, right? The problem is, as agency leaders, we already have a heavy workload and we're feeling overwhelmed. We often face additional emotional labour that we don't feel equipped to handle, and this can actually take a toll on our own mental health and well-being. Issues also, like bullying, sexual harassment and violence, are incredibly challenging, and many of us lack the necessary education and training to effectively address these topics. So this can result in a reluctance to engage and lead to avoidance and inaction, which is where the real risk is. But what if we look at it this way? What if we change the lens, simplify the complex, stop managing psychosocial hazards and start creating safe spaces? Instead of focusing on the ins and outs of legislation, we focus on creating psychologically safe spaces. Amy Edmondson, a professor at Harvard Business School, is well known for her work on psychological safety in teams and organisations. And she defines psychological safety as a shared belief that the team is safe for risk-taking. In other words, it's a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. According to Edmondson, psychological safety is crucial for fostering a culture of learning and innovation. When team members feel psychologically safe, they are more likely to share their ideas and opinion, take risks, which leads to better decision-making and better problem-solving. So a psychologically safe culture is more likely to be a great place to do great work because it allows people to be the best versions of themselves. So how can we create workplaces where people feel safe to be themselves, speak up, contribute their unique perspectives, and lead to more innovative and high-performing teams? Remember Frank? He had a really helpful and noble approach to psychological safety. Driven by reducing risks and to protect his team, he implements controls like conducting risk assessments, creating clear policies and procedures, establishing a complaint process, and incorporating an employee assistance program into the budget. This is great because protection is really important. But Vanessa may have applied a more strategic approach to creating safe spaces, using the principles of psychological safety. Then her rewards go beyond protection and have impacts in everything, improving inclusion, diversity, trust, communication, and facilitating performance, high performance. So in actual fact, this model has a significantly reduced risk even further. So this is the humankind framework. How do we practically apply some of this to our workplaces? There are 4 phases in the framework, the first of which is leadership commitment. The old saying, if you walk past it, you accept it, is really valid in this context. Decide what is and isn't okay for your business. Role model behaviours like vulnerability, celebrate difference, set the bar and make that clear through your performance program and all of your ways of working. Then assess your business. Look at your specific organisational model. Are your organisational goals realistic, or do they place unrealistic pressures on your people? Are your people clear on what they are at work to do? Does every employee have a clear job description and understanding of what your expectations of them are? Do they feel supported? Have you considered neurodiversity in your workforce? And do you have any practices that potentially work against those needs? Policies and procedures. Create your rules and guidelines around what is and isn't acceptable at your workplace. Create a complaint resolution process. Create a mentally healthy policy. Apply your flex work structures within policy and procedure. Look at your approach to diversity inclusion, and consider an employee assistance program. Finally, support and education. There is a load of, the good news for us is that there are a load of resources, some free, other experts in different areas of these fields. I can't claim to be a guru in every area, but if there's a particular area that you feel is relevant to your business, you can certainly uncover an amazing, learning platform, education program for your leadership team. Obviously, mental health first aid, I believe, is one of the greatest leadership assets your organisation could have, based on the fact that it gives you confidence to lean into difficult conversations rather than avoid them. EAP, I will mention again here, is a great support for smaller organisations. It's not a huge investment, but it gives you the ability to refer someone when you've hit a point in a conversation that you're feeling a little out of your depth in. It gives you resources to experts that are qualified to have those conversations about whatever that, potential challenge might be. So, grief, relationship counselling, workload, whatever it might be. Test a couple of employee assistance programs and make sure that you actually engage in the one that you engage in so that you understand it as you recommend it to your employees. And finally, celebrate and reward giraffes. It's really important for you to have some kind of platform where you recognise people that are sticking their necks out for others, that are looking out for, behaviours that may have changed or situations that may be resulting in impact on your employees, and really celebrate that behaviour. And that will have a natural flow-on effect through your business. So you've just heard the headlines. We need a human care factor more than ever. And guess what? You have a natural advantage because you're a human being. Humanising work is infectious. Use your moral compass, and being empathetic to your team with life challenges and making sure team personal life becomes before business deliverables is a surefire, the best way to protect your business. Being a leader can be really tough. No doubt, running business is harder, faster, and more loaded with emotional labour than ever. So what support systems do you have in play to look after your own mental health, to fill up your own cup? And remembering that our mental health is our own responsibility. That's a question that I get asked often, is where does the responsibility lie? And it's with all of us. It's your people have a responsibility to their own mental health, but you as employees do too. But the more that we can mentor it being our own responsibility, you'll start to see those behaviours reflected throughout your organisation. Okay. As I mentioned, there's a load of resources available. Sam and Beck and the team will be sending out some additional resources following this session. So a handbook and a guide that has a lot more robust detail around psychosocial safety if you're interested. It also will have a version of the framework that we've just been through so that you can create a plan for your own organisation. And you'll also be provided with a comprehensive list of free mental health support services that you should make available somewhere central to all of your employees. That's just gone a little faster than we planned, but good to have some time back in your day and maybe have a break for some self-care. Does anyone have any questions?
And so often there isn't questions within here, so we might, if anyone's got questions, we can connect to you post the meeting.
Absolutely.
To the members.
Yeah.
Virg, thank you so much for that. A lot to get through, and thank you for sharing and being vulnerable, with your own journey. Thank you, members, for tuning in. We'll share this with the wider leadership group, and if anyone wants to get in contact with you, we'll share your details on the closed LinkedIn group, and just reach out to us and we will. Thank you so much, leaders, for your time.
Thanks,
Talk to everyone soon.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye, guys.